attention. Joining us, and he was here in the last half hour when, of course, we had to break in and talk to Murray Sheriffs and get the update from Ottawa. Joining us now is Gary Dierenfeld, social worker, yoursocialworker.com, to find out more. And, of course, parenting column in your Hamilton Spectator. We've been talking to him about what is it that makes a person that was born and raised here commit these sorts of crimes and join these sorts of organizations. Gary is with us now. Gary, thanks for hanging on. We really do appreciate that.
Yeah.
Let's sort of sum up what we started earlier on last half hour before we talked to Murray Sheriffs live from Ottawa. Do we have to worry now that every disgruntled Canadian, displaced Canadian, a Canadian who we know the stereotype, that they will use ISIS and their terrorist threats as a vehicle to get back at people, as a vehicle to spread terror? Are you concerned about this?
No, we don't need to worry about every disgruntled, disenfranchised, vulnerable Canadian youth being inducted into a terrorist organization. Unfortunately, though, it only takes a few to tremendously impact the entire Canadian psyche. So we have to differentiate between those few and the other Canadians out there. What we also want to do, Scott, it just hit home the need for good social programs. Typically, when we profile the kind of person who gets inducted into a terrorist organization, they tend to be young. They tend to be late teenagers to early adulthood, tend to be male. There tends to be some degree of disenfranchisement from greater society. And there also tends to be a precipitating event, and thereafter is a vulnerability. And if we're not prepared to catch persons at that point of vulnerability, then we're not doing our job. So, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Keep going.
So, in that vulnerability, these persons may be susceptible to a negative leader, if you will. Let's go back to the 1950s, for goodness sakes. There used to be gangs. Well, there still is gangs. And so these are negative leaders who can kind of nurture, co-opt vulnerable persons to do their bidding over time. So there's a process of luring, where I'm trying to entice you, and grooming, where I'm filling your head with my ideology, of isolation, where I'm going to work to separate you from the larger community, and then finally that indoctrination, where you're only susceptible to what I finally have to say, and then after that, I get you to do my bidding.
It was interesting that I was watching the news last night, and they were talking about what had happened in Quebec with the soldier being run down, and how groups were coming together in order to try to spot this sort of issue before it manifests itself into what we're seeing today and yesterday. And it was interesting listening to one of the police officers who was obviously very much involved in this cause, and he said that you treat this very much the same way that you would treat a gang issue, and
Absolutely.
Kids getting into gangs in those types of hoods. So there is a parallel there.
Yeah, and so that's why we want good community services. We've got the Boys and Girls Club, East Quanah Boys and Girls Club. We have similar things. We have Big Brothers. We have Big Sisters. We want disenfranchised, vulnerable persons to feel connected to their community and the larger community. We want to offer them outlets for positive, appropriate, pro-social outlets for their upset. We want for them to, very often these persons don't have a sense of agency. And what that means is they don't feel like they can affect change or impact the world around them, this sense of agency. We want them to have a sense of agency, like their vote matters, like what they have to say is important to us. We want them to have those social connections. These are the things that are protective against being inducted into any group that would otherwise take advantage and lead this person to harm.
We don't know any